Hello and welcome to the WellPlayed DLC podcast, Australia's juiciest gaming podcast. I am your host for the week, James Wood, and this evening I am joined by Zachary Jackson.
How you going? Good evening.
Good evening. Nathan E. Hennessy.
Yes, welcome back.
And Kieron Iverbrugge.
Hello. Thank you for that introduction.
Of course. Yeah, gotta shake it up, gotta keep it fresh. I might be fighting off a mild fever, but we're gonna get through this show. We're gonna have a great time.
Iverbrugge.
Yeah, right? It has a nice ring to it. Almost European.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. We'll go with that. Speaking of Iverbrugge, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm doing all right.
It's good. It's exciting.
That's all I got.
Great. Amazing. Hennessy.
Yeah, look, I was just telling you folks, I've been doing a lot of daytime bar work, so I'm a few beers deep tonight, but it's fine. We're going to be responsible and have a nice evening.
What's the worst that could happen? Jackson E.
Yes, I'm fine, not too bad. I'm actually planning for Europe at the moment, so that's been a very fun, not really, time. So
what are you going to do to it?
Nice.
Gotta take it out for dinner first, and then we'll see what happens.
Go visit my
you heard it
relatives
first.
of Bruges.
Exactly. We have got a relatively stacked show for tonight. Kieron has been taken to the seas in Like a Dragon pirate Yakuza in Hawaii.
Close enough.
Close
Wasn't
enough.
it? Oh, I thought
Hell
we
yeah.
had it.
I have been playing Lost Records Bloom and Rage, the new game from Don't Nod, and Nathan has been checking out Chernobylite 2. But before we get into that, Nathan, what else have you been playing?
I have actually just, interestingly enough, topical to this evening, I have finished Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. I've just wrapped that up. It has been a very long journey. I think that's clocked around 80 hours, but I think a big reason for that taking so long is this entry pretty much includes all the side content into the main quest line. So you don't really get to decide if anything's optional. You got to do it all. I've done it all. I'm very tired. It was fun. I love the characters. Like Kasuga Ichiban, like the new sort of protagonist of the series, an all-timer. So it's always a pleasure hanging out with him.
Okay. Does that game sort of? I was talking to someone today about this actually, about like sort of getting into Yakuza, Like a Dragon, and sort of finding the appropriate entry point and whatnot. Are any of these accessible if you don't know anything about these games, or?
There's probably 2 entry points, right, Kieron?
Yeah.
What do you think? We probably agree on this.
I would have said 0 and 7.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So 0 is like the retroactive beginning of Kiryu's saga, and Yakuza 7 is the beginning of Ichiban's saga. So you can kind of jump in at those appropriate points. But actually, like the new one, which we'll talk about obviously soon, seems like a good enough entry point as well, or like a dabbling, like a gateway to the rest of the series. So
Okay.
It's a big series.
Yeah, I know. The time commitment alone just makes me kind of want to throw up. You know, you kind of have those games in mind that you're like, I'll get to that when I retire. The Like a Dragon series is kind of that for me.
How many hundreds of hours, eh? A few.
A few. Yeah, a few. Yeah. Zach, what have you been playing?
Just the Slender Threads for review still, but I haven't played enough, to talk about it tonight, but we'll see next week. Seems okay so far. It's the only thing I will say very, very briefly is that the puzzles don't seem to be overly fucky, like nothing too hard, kind of a bit simple, which is good. In the mood that I'm in, yes, because I don't want like to be fucked around with combining everything just to fucking get a key. You know what I mean? Other than that, Silent Hill 4. No, I haven't been playing Silent Hill 4. That's a lie. Silent Hill 2 remake. I'm up to the cube.
Hey, you cubed.
So I think I've got one last
Yes.
Now, spoilers probably, maybe, who knows, who cares. There's 3 doors in the cube.
Yep.
Yeah, so I've done 2 of the 3 doors.
You might be surprised. There's still a good chunk of game left.
Fuck,
But that part's a
still.
real highlight. Yes. Yes.
Oh my God.
There is still a good amount of game left.
How long is that game? Like roughly?
This is a problem that James pointed out.
It's overly long. They're like I get that they loved it enough that they wanted to like pad it out and add new stuff and everything, but it has just led to like a very odd. When are we done with this? It's just it's so dark and it's too
Oh
long to
my
be in the dark for
god,
that long. You know, it is
mate!
like actually oppressive.
This motherfucking How Long to Beat says it's 16 hours to beat the main story.
It
Dog,
took
I'm at like
me,
fucking 18 hours probably at the
yeah,
moment.
it took me between 18 and 20, and I did my best, but I also played
Yeah,
on hard.
I'm on
you did
normal,
shoot
mate.
yourself in the foot with that.
This is a Zach Jackson phenomenon
Problem.
though.
I know.
Yeah, this is your
A 2 hour
standard.
game becomes a 40-hour game.
Yeah, and I'm sick of the dark. Like it's just I've had enough.
It's
I
grim.
Well, I mean, you're almost done with the dark. So
just want to see like instead of squinting every fucking time, and those fucking legs that hide in the corner. Fucking
Yes.
got you,
yeah,
motherfucker. I know where you are.
Yep.
Half the time I don't, but anyway, that's me.
Crawling along the ceiling and shit. Ugh.
that's it.
I've also got a lot of ammo.
Speaking of legs in the corner, Kieran, what have you been playing?
Perfect. No notes.
Yeah, no.
I don't think that I've been playing anything that we're not already going to touch on soon enough. Have you been playing anything that we're not already going to touch on soon enough, James?
I did do a fair bit of the Night Rain network test
Oh yeah.
for Elden Ring, the new roguelike multiplayer mode, or like not mode, the spin-off game that they've made. First session just didn't work because matchmaking totally collapsed. Cool, it's a network test, that's fine. Second
Yeah.
session, you couldn't play with your friends, you could only jump in with randos. And so that led to me having like a really wonky experience with it where I was like, I don't like this isn't very fun. But then the next two sessions I played were with friends and it clicked. Just a great
Right.
experience. I'm not a roguelike person. I find that sort of structure generally frustrating, but the way Night Rain handles it is just super fast. Like you're in and out so quick that it doesn't really matter that you're not retaining anything really between runs. Although there are like some systems in place to kind of you get like little rocks that you can upgrade for like a passive boost the next time you go in and that sort of stuff. Yeah, no, had a really good time with it. Can't wait to check
Okay.
out the full release. The Eagle Man is really hot, so that's nice. Yeah.
Can I ask
Yeah.
a question?
That's the format we're on.
What can you talk to me? Like, imagine you're at work or you used to be at work, or one of the works that we work in, and some nuffy comes in and just asks you like a real dumb question, and you got to explain it to them real simply.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
What is an Elden Ring roguelike? How does that work? Explain to me.
So it
Talk to me like
takes
I'm
Such a
five.
loaded question.
yeah. It takes chunks of the base map and remixes them into smaller maps. Then it drops you into there with up to up to two other players. So you go in as like a squad of three. And then it does the Fortnite circle thing of like the rain closes in, so it pushes you further and further towards the center. At the end of that, you fight a massive boss. Loop to the next day where you do it again. You fight another boss. Loop to the last day where you fight the final boss of the experience.
That's so
Each,
fucking weird.
yeah, very
That's
weird.
cool.
Yeah. Random loot drops. Anyone can use any item, which is good. There's a little bit of level gating, but the leveling up is no longer stat dependent. It's just a baseline. You level up, run off. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Don't stop. Don't think about it. Very intuitive experience.
Does it
Ooh.
does it still feel like Elden Ring? Because like that
Hmm.
actually sounds more appealing than I initially thought. Because the thing that I
does.
didn't enjoy about Elden Ring is getting bogged down in the stats and the
Oh,
meta and
yeah.
stuff. So if it's just the action,
Yeah,
like
all of it is super streamlined.
right,
It does still feel like Elden Ring. It just feels like Elden Ring on fast forward. Which is not a bad thing. It's just different. You just kind of have to adjust your
yeah.
expectations. You kind of have to unlearn the lessons that Elden Ring teaches you about Elden Ring.
15-second question. Want to jump in so we can move on? With this format of Elden Ring, does this mean it's encouraging you to try like vastly different, maybe like weapons or builds to what you normally would have because things are so ever
Totally.
changing? Or
Yep. So I almost exclusively played a sorcerer in base game Elden Ring.
Yeah.
In Night Rain, I am loving being a heavy. I've never played one of them before in any of FromSoft games, but I like having the big bird with a big axe and kind of tanking hits, so my co-op partners can get in around the back of things and whatnot. It's
Oh, that's right, because it's tied to a character now. Like a
Yes, yeah, preset characters, which you will be able
Ah,
to like, I think visually customize to a certain degree in the full release, and there are 8 of them, so it's a good roster. And I mean, already amongst the 4, like they're really fun and diverse. The mainline one is he's just a guy with a sword, but everyone else interesting. So
you gotta have a guy with a sword.
you do, yeah. They got to make a statue of him. Yeah, so that's
Thank
Night
you.
Rain. Yeah, of
Sick.
course. That's what we're here for. Kieran, I don't have a clever
Yes.
transition because I am sweating a lot. So let's just dive right on in to what is the actual name of this game?
I didn't hear you enough. I
That
think you
one.
had it right before. It's like a dragon pirate Yakuza in Hawaii.
Yeah, I think he
Oh,
had it.
So I think
okay.
you nailed it, and
Yeah,
I was just not paying enough attention.
understood. Yeah.
Kudos.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the
Um,
pitch?
the pitch.
Pirate
So it's Yakuza pirates is the
in
pitch.
Hawaii.
And they're in Hawaii. Funnily enough. Yeah. So yeah, the newest entry in the series, but not a mainline title. So this is the second recent sort of time that they've done a like a little spin-off filler title in between mainline joints. So the last one was The Man Who Erased His Name, which had Kiryu as the lead, and that was like a secret agent kind of vibe. And then this has gone the other way and gone pirates. Big difference here is you're playing as Goro Majima, who had small playable appearances in the series before, but mainly a side character and a very beloved one at that. So it's really, really cool that people are going to be able to play as him in a leading role for a full game. Essentially, the way it works is he is shipwrecked in Hawaii a few months after the events of Infinite Wealth. Wakes up, has amnesia, doesn't remember his name, doesn't remember that he's a Yakuza, has to have that explained to him.
You could
But
kind of say
then
he's the man who forgot his name.
yes. Oh, damn it. I should have used that. I'm
So
going to edit
good.
the review. You're going
Yeah.
to see that in the review when you're listening to this. But yeah, doesn't remember who he is or his Yakuza past, but ends up sort of just back in the Yakuza atmosphere because he hears about a buried pirate treasure, and he steals some poor fucker's pirate ship and becomes a pirate for the shits and giggles. But yeah, you're essentially just getting the core like a dragon Yakuza experience with ship stuff tacked on. And the game sort of, as you progress through the main story, just kind of flicks between those. You spend a bit of time out on the sea, and you'll spend a bit of time in Hawaii in the same map that was in Infinite Wealth. So a lot of the same places and people and things. But yeah, I mean, what I think what really works with this is it kind of obviously leans on the amnesia angle to give it its own sort of standalone story that's not tied down to the baggage of the rest of the series. So that's why earlier I said it's a really good sort of dabbling point, because you kind of get a short form like a dragon game and you don't have to worry about the rest of it.
And it's
But
hard to
then
get a
like
short form like a dragon
that's
experience.
it. That's it. But then like without giving too much away, it does also use that same angle to loop back to the series at the end, and it's really cool. And I think a lot of people are going to like it. But yeah, the naval stuff, I sort of tried to describe in my review as very arcadey, and it doesn't really evolve too much over the course of the game, and that's kind of the same as the combat. So I think people are going to expect that. But it does kind of set up a lot of things, a lot of systems and stuff that you don't end up using. So it's very Assassin's Creed style in the naval combat. I think that's probably pretty
Mm.
obvious if you saw a screenshot or a video. It's the same. You're getting the same kind of experience. But there's a lot of stuff like you can sort of close the camera down to like a deck view, and you can run around and like hype up your crew and put out fires and all this shit. I've never used any of it in the entire game. So like
Ah,
it's interesting that it like kind of gives you in the tutorial, it gives you the sense of depth, and then when
yep.
you're playing, it's like, oh, you see 3 ships in the background, you shoot them until they're dead, move on. So it's like it's fun, but it's just like this weird, weird sort of promise of more that never really comes into its own. Um, but it's good, and you spend just as much time on foot in Hawaii, which has like the classic beat 'em up Yakuza combat. So if you missed that in the recent JRPG entries, you're getting that again. It's super goofy. Like it's Majima as a character is already really goofy, and they ham that up to like the nth degree because again he doesn't know anything about being a Yakuza anymore, so he's just this like heart of gold pirate. Um, yeah, it's really cool. I think the biggest issue I have with the game is kind of a hard one to talk about because it's indicative of the series as a whole, and it's just a lack of evolution. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, it's the same game, but it's pirates instead of Yakuza. But they do the same thing, and that's all we really know about. And it shows in a lot of ways, like, you know, its characters and the sort of action you get into, and also like there's a hidden island called Madlantis, and it's this like construction of like a ship graveyard, but then turned into like a playground for pirates. And I was like, this is really cool. And then it's like, oh, it's just another red light district from the other games. It's just the same thing, but in a different
Mm.
skin. So it feels weird complaining about that because people expect that from a like a dragon game that it is the same sort of thing every time. But I feel like we're at a point now where it's like, how much more can we do that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, really, really good, fun, standalone adventure. Please, can we do something else next time?
Mm. Does seem
It's
like it's a franchise that's like largely coasting by on how fucking likable it is.
yes.
And it's
And I
really
think,
likable, and that's the thing.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, I believe
yeah,
you. I believe it's likable, but as someone who is on like a real tear at the moment about like the lack of innovation, I think especially in all video games maybe is where I'm landing.
yeah,
I do think it's interesting that like this thing has retained such a like high level of critical acclaim and sort of fan adoration, while
yeah,
most of the studios that do this level of like repeated mechanics and whatnot get kind of torn apart for it.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's like you see those like AAA games where it's like, oh no, they recycled an animation for someone getting into a boat. Like
That's a
Yeah.
gaming is
feature of
doomed.
Like a Dragon.
And then like
We copy
literally
pasted
this
it
game
all.
is like they've copy pasted the entire map. Like,
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
Like how many times have you played in literally the setting of the very first Yakuza from like 2004 or whatever? Like
doing the same mini games, talking to the same people. Like,
12 times now? I don't know.
yeah.
Okay.
Why?
What did you end up giving it? Oh, sorry, Zach.
It's like why do you think this game or this series gets away with that? Like when we're
Is I think part of it, like I think we've already sort of discussed, like it's fun and it's comfy because you sort of know
Mm.
what you're getting, and it's like it's always fun, and I think like in the first at least in the first kind of 6 games, there is also like this sense of place that you get from returning to the same streets every
Yes.
time, becoming familiar with them, and then when it does change something, that impacts really well from a narrative perspective, like from a storytelling perspective, it works really well. But yeah, it's hard to say if Hawaii has that same effect as like Kamurocho in the older games.
Yeah.
Mm. Nathan, are you checking this out? You're a Yakuza person.
Oh,
Or
absolutely
like a
have
dragon.
to. Like I think I've ticked off every localized one except the zombie one. So yeah, this
Like
one's
Dead
going on the
Souls.
list.
Yeah,
The
you can
the
skip
what?
that.
Yeah, there's a there's
There's
a
a
there's a zombie one as well.
Oh,
But they take
there's
oh,
a
they take the setting from the first game and they're like, well, what are we going to copy paste this time? We'll copy paste everything, but we'll make everyone zombies. Like that's going to be
okay.
our innovation.
Was this around the same time as like the Undead Nightmare stuff? Like, was it part of that
Yes,
trend
I feel
or
correct.
like it was.
It
Yeah.
right?
was.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
And Kieran says I can
Mm.
give it a miss, so that tells you you need to know. So yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Where did you land on this at the end then?
I think I ended up landing on an 8.
Okay.
And
Respectable.
that's indicative of the quality of the game. My feelings on the series as a whole, I guess maybe are kind of separate, but
Hmm.
if you're a Yakuza fan, like you're gonna eat this shit up. It's good.
Yeah. Right. Fun. Fun. Well, from the high seas to the Midwest, I guess is the best I can do with this. Now that I'm in it,
Nice.
but yeah, I've been playing Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, Tape One. So it's just the Bloom half of things. Tape Two is coming in, I think, April. This is from Don't Nod, who they've broken off from Square Enix. They're doing their own thing now, self-publishing, which is cool to see. They have effectively returned to the Life is Strange formula, which is interesting given that Life is Strange is also continuing on. And I've obviously had very complicated feelings about where that series has ended up with Double Exposure. And so Don't Nod have returned, and they've made one of them, I guess, is how I feel about this. It's yeah, so 1995, it's summer. We're following the adventures of Swan and her three friends, Nora, Autumn, and Kat. They form the titular band Bloom and Rage after they are kind of like just mercilessly fucking harassed and bullied in this small Midwest town of Velvet Cove, is what this place is called. But there's also a dual timeline going on in the future in 2022 where three of them meet up again because they have been delivered a package addressed to the band, and the implication being that something happened in the summer of 95, and now as women approaching their 40s or in their 40s, they have to kind of return home and grapple with whatever was done there. They are yellow jacketsing themselves effectively.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
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 I was thinking that.
So it's a very twee Yellow Jackets, I guess is where we're going with this. It is. I really struggled with it in a lot of different ways. They try to do some interesting things with sort of camera perspective. So the stuff in 2022 is entirely played out in a first person perspective, which does at least differentiate it somewhat from the feel of a Life is Strange, and I did appreciate that. And the 95 stuff is very traditional Life is Strange. Third person camera, small linear spaces that you can like, you've got to open a window. So now it's time to meander around a space and pick something up and go, well, this will never do. And then put it back down and then find the next thing that they reject or, like, or whatever it is. It is Life is Strange. The core conceit is that Swan is a filmmaker, and so she has a camcorder on her at all times, which you can use to film ostensibly parts of her life. It's a big part of the narrative and it's a big part of the themes of the game about sort of the capturing of imagery and sort of how Swan uses this camera as a means of interacting with the world around her, because she's this like shy, nerdy kid. And so she needs a degree of like abstraction between her and the world. And I do like that element of it. What I don't like is that to use that camera to progress the story, it'll be like you've got to film the girls performing a musical performance, let's say. But instead of the player getting to decide what they film and sort of having a say in maybe the creativity and like effortlessness of like, you put yourself into it, you choose what you want to film, and then the game will adapt around it. We don't do that. Instead, it's very rigid. Certain areas of the game are highlighted with glowing boxes, and you have to hold on them for 3 seconds at a time. And then it says, okay, now you have done an art. We're proud of you. You can move on. It's littered with like 20 birds, 10 scenic views, 16 critters. It's that kind of like gamified system that I think runs like really badly up against the thematic idea of the camera and what it means within the context of the story. All of these characters are constantly like, Swan, you're so amazing with that camera. You're so good at it. But then everyone's videos are vaguely going to look the same. There is an editing suite that you can like chop up clips with and kind of rearrange them in an order, but it's very rudimentary stuff. It's not. I used it once when the tutorial prompted me to it, and then I completely forgot it existed. Kind of like Kieron, you and the boat stuff. It's just like, I don't need to do any of this, so I'm just simply not going to engage with it. It's like mechanically, I found it a bit kind of inert and a bit just, it's Life is Strange again, but with extra steps now. And then on top of that as well, there's the fact that like this game is just not well written or well performed. The story is really badly paced between the two different timelines. Every time you start developing any sort of momentum or tension with one of them, you cut to the other one, oftentimes in really jarring tonal shifts between serious and goofy. The game has a really loose relationship with what I took to be metaphor, but seems like increasingly is just going to be literal supernatural stuff, which Life is Strange has an interesting relationship to as well. But I think Life is Strange works because you can largely take a lot of that stuff as metaphor for the experience of these queer teenagers. And here it's trying to do that while also establishing an actual narrative around some of it as well. It's just a bit messy. It doesn't entirely work for me. And yeah, I don't like any of the characters. There's one who I think is like relatively interesting, and she does a pretty good voice work with it. But three of the band members, including the main character, are just very like kind of like the avowed problem. They are affable, they are archetypes. They won't bother anybody, but equally that you won't remember any of them either. They simply kind of exist to say quirky little 90s references and reflect back the player choices at them in terms of like romance options. Um, I don't know. I felt very little for this. And when I did feel something, it was often frustration. The climactic moment of episode one, I was laughing through, and I don't know if I was meant to. So it's just a total like tonal and narrative disconnect on my part. And on top of that, like, don't know it as a studio who, with things like Banishers and Jusant, have been really interesting recently. And to see them kind of like retreat to this safety in this structure just makes me really sad.
Wow.
Damn, man.
Yeah. Having a real good run of it lately. Just
And eloquently so. Fuck.
thank you.
Kieran,
I
you've
don't have
put
any
a,
questions.
well, Kieran's put a couple hours in, so I'm keen to see what he thinks before we go to question
Yeah,
time.
I mean, I think the thing I said to James was this is really just Life is Strange with a camcorder, and from what you've said about the rest of the experience, that hasn't changed. Yeah, my initial impressions were pretty. I feel like we're pretty positive because like it does start you off in that first person perspective. I was like, oh, this is a bit different.
Yeah.
And then it changes, and like you're a 40-year-old, like a woman in her like 30s or 40s or whatever. Like I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Then it shifts to the the 90s timeline, and you're a teenager with a body type you don't usually see in games. I was like, oh, this is cool. Then the
Totally.
camcorder thing came up, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And then like since then, it's just been like, oh yeah, it's more it's more of this.
Yeah.
I just like my initial like sort of feel on like vibe on the camera stuff was like, oh, if we're looking at looking at everything through a camcorder, is this like a really cool way to sort of get that same Life is Strange experience of like poring over every little memento and stuff in the scene and properly contextualize that so it's not like at odds with the rest of the narrative.
Yeah.
But then that doesn't happen. Because
No.
it would be cool if you were just like instead of pressing inspect on every object, instead of getting to where you're actually meant to be going, she was looking at them through a camera and commenting and stuff like, oh, that
Yeah.
But no, it just reverts back to what you've played before in Life is
Yeah.
Strange. So yeah, I can't comment on like how the story develops because I haven't got that far in, but yeah,
It's also
sounds
worth
like
noting, like, I'm sure people will like this. People tend to like things I don't like. You shouldn't take my word as like the absolute on sort of the quality of any of this necessarily. I just, as someone who's recently replayed Life is Strange as well, that those games go out of their way to make those towns and the people in it feel heightened, yes, but also very real. You get like a kind of
Mm,
complete portrait of an emotional experience of living in a space. There are 6 talking characters in this game, and 4 of them are the girls. There are 2 other kind of supporting people that show up, but for the most part, this town is empty. You only ever spend time with these girls or these women. And I said in my review, like, I don't think that was like an intentional commentary on the nature of like selective memory. It just feels like a very small, non-existent space. And a prime example, the game opens with you having a phone call with your mum. That's actually I liked. I thought it was relatively well written, well acted. I got excited based on that. And then you never actually see your mum in any of the flashbacks, which go for 6 hours or so. This is a lengthy little episode. The mum is always just like this disembodied voice off screen that goes, "You got to be ready for school, or you got to go to bed." There's just zero actual character work done with these characters to set up anything kind of interesting beyond maybe something in the last 5 minutes, which we obviously can't spoil. So, yeah, bummer.
I missed sorry, I had to jump onto a phone call, so I kind of missed most of the chat you had just before. But I've only played just after the phone call. No, so when you do
Yeah.
the first room, and you leave
Mhm.
after you're packing your backpack. But I did quite like that little 90s VHS sheen, if you want to call it that. I'm not sure if you talked about that much. How does it for the full game? Does it do much with that? Because that's what kind of pulls me in. You know, there's that 90s, because we do a lot of 80s.
Yes. Yeah, for
But
sure.
going to the 90s is kind of our time.
There's there's stuff where it'll be like, you walk up to the desk and there's like a Tamagotchi on it, or one of the locations that they hang out sometimes is in front of like the game's equivalent of a Blockbuster. So like these things are in there. I don't necessarily feel as if the game is like quintessentially 90s. In the text itself anyway. Like they are like fun sight gags, and some of the lingo they use. I miss Hella, I'll say that much. But yeah, I don't know. It was fine. I think the allusions to the pandemic in the beginning of the game were more interesting to me as sort of like a thing that places it in a particular time. But that also never comes up again either. So
Right. Okay. Because
yeah.
I feel like they've used that as a selling hook a little bit. I know, but when I booted it up on the
Oh
screen, it
yeah,
says like "Party Like It's 1995" or whatever the fuck it says.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think
for
it says
sure.
that, but
No, I mean
um,
it's like with the camcorder itself. It's a cool aesthetic touchstone. Like I think the game looks pretty good. It's just I need more.
yeah, like
So hopefully tape two. But
from reading your review, I got those vibes from the very first scene in that bedroom where you got to like use the camcorder to film a couple things, and it's like cool. I'm having to play around, and it's like no, okay, that doesn't do anything. And then you look around, it's like go here, and you're like okay, sure.
yeah, yeah, very on rails experience for what's meant to be emulating creative arts. But
Mm.
yeah. So yeah, landed on a 5.5. It works. Oh, I mean, actually, to be fair, I did hit a couple of quest breaking bugs, so it doesn't always work.
Jesus.
Yeah, yeah. Video games. Nathan,
James.
rescue us, save us.
Oh, I don't know, boys. Shall I take you out to Chernobyl?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it could only get less
Drop
grim
yous
from
in the
here.
I'll
wasteland.
take it.
Yeah.
Let's talk Chernobylite 2, Exclusion Zone. So I've played the demo for this in the lead up to the early access Steam release on March 5. What this is, or what you would think this is, based on the fact that this is a sequel to Chernobylite, which was a 2019 early access, quote unquote, survival horror first person shooter, which achieved full access in 2021. It's effectively the pitch on Chernobylite, or at least the first one, would be that it's sort of in the vein of Stalker, but kind of from a I guess a smaller studio, given it's kind of an indie flair. It was a Kickstarter success, and it's definitely a Kickstarter game because that first game has a lot of systems that you only interface with once, and that's it. They tick their box. But admirably, from the Farm 51, which is a small Polish studio, they made a fairly atmospheric, competent, well-running little, Stalker light that runs a heck of a lot better than Stalker 2. So it's definitely got that going for it. But then in 2025, we get to play their proposed sequel, where what the kind of goodwill they'd earned with creating an atmospheric first-person shooter, they've kind of chucked that in the bin and kind of moved towards something very different for the studio. The studio's done for atmospheric first-person shooters before. This game is kind of wanting to be Elden Ring. Like, it's the weirdest fucking thing.
Okay.
I did not expect it at all. This is a third-person post-apocalyptic Souls-like. Like, this is so far from what I would have expected from Chernobylite. The quick of the story is this is set in 2024, a few years after the first game. What happened in the first game was Chernobylite is this kind of crystalline substance that it's come from the nuclear zone of the Chernobyl disaster. It's not quite clear what it is, but it's been harvested now to become an energy source. So it's a renewable energy source. It's also being used in human augmentations. And it's created in 2024 now, a few years later in 2024, it's created this kind of like new powered utopia where all the energy barons have kind of scooped up all the Chernobylite and they've transformed the world, put us 100 years in the future. But we've run out of Chernobylite, and what they've done with the portals is they've created portals to the multiverse. So we're going to go into all the other Chernobyls and take all their Chernobylite. Your character is named Cole Gray. He's a Londoner who was a former UN peacekeeper. Now he's a military contractor in Ukraine, and he's been taken to the front lines doing the Chernobylite harvesting for whatever goddamn reason. And they've augmented him as a part of the process. And that augmentation involves putting Chernobylite in him, transforming him into what is called a quote-unquote plane walker, which I haven't quite come up with a good joke yet because I want to do a little Magic the Gathering joke in the article, but that's still pending.
Good.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
there's a lot of front-loaded plot in this 2.5-hour demo, and it's presented kind of okay. Like the voice acting is a huge step up from the first game, which was I had to just turn the English voice acting off, and even the Ukrainian voice acting was good enough. But yeah. Anyway, when you actually get hands-on in the game, you start off in Cole's apartment, first person, looks all right, it's in the Unreal 5 engine, then you take a portal into Chernobyl, and then you go through an induction process, which is your tutorial, where they introduce you to one of 3 different combat types. One's just your standard melee, one's shooting guns, and another one's this kind of like science tech, where you power up gauntlets with radioactive energy and shoot elements at people. Again, this is so far from what Chernobylite 1 was, which was a very reasonably self-serious game, but this is going like real weird sci-fi wackiness. And then fast forward, so you go through your little combat tutorial. It's all third person. There's stamina bars and everything, so you got to like manage your stamina, doing your dodge rolls and your parries and your blocks like you would in your Souls like. And then once you're initiated and you become a planeswalker, the game goes forward a year, and basically you're on there's a disaster. We're not sure what it was. You wake up a year later in a Chernobyl of some multiversal description. And basically, it's the post-apocalypse. Chernobylite's taken over in the space of a year. It's just this parasitic substance that's everywhere, and there's these mutant zombies, and there's mutant humans as well. They've gone real Fallout with it. So there's a mutant faction of like friendly, irradiated humans that are now like robotic, and they're no longer human. There's bandit factions and all this. There's all these systems. The game gives you like little tutorials for like dozens of different systems to indicate what might be in the early access or what might be coming along. But I couldn't even, if I wanted to, I couldn't even go through all the systems at the moment, because they've kind of just taken every system from every game that they like and put it in here. It's an extraordinarily ambitious game. First person combat is apparently coming, which is weird because the combat has been so clearly designed around third person. There's a boss fight in the game which plays out exactly like a Souls-like boss fight. It puts you you find him in the wild, puts up a wall around you of just an invisible wall. Like, it doesn't even care. It's just, here's an invisible wall around you. You're in an arena. Here's a big health bar. You got to manage your stamina. You've got your limited health supply that only recharge when you go back to base. So it's doing the whole like campfire thing as well. Your ammo also only like really recharges when you go back to base. So you can't just like go through the open world waste zone and just shoot. Eventually you're going to have to rely on hand-to-hand combat, most likely, because you're just going to run out of ammo. It's mostly restocked back at base. There's a million things going on here. It's very interesting. But again, 2.5 hours is not really enough time to quite figure out what this game is going to succeed at. I can't imagine it'll succeed at all these things that it's doing, because it didn't in the first game. But they're throwing every dart at the wall. It runs pretty well for like a demo of what is preceding early access. Like, I had no issues with how the thing ran or bugs or anything like that. It's all competent. But it's just such a departure from this studio. I don't know if fans of the original game are going to love it or hate it, because it's so distinctly different from that. Good on them, I say, because in a post-Stalker 2 world, it doesn't make sense to me to make another Stalker light, and they've just gone so far in the opposite direction, something that is closer to maybe like State of Decay cross Remnant. It's bizarre, but I'm hopeful for the future. It's weird. I kind of like some of the things they're throwing out. We'll see.
Remnant, you say?
Remnant,
exactly. That's how you would get me on board. So.
Yeah, like I played Remnant a couple of weeks prior to this, and I was like, okay, so the third-person shooting Souls-like aspect is very reminiscent of that. Cool. So, I don't know. We'll see. There's nothing I didn't like, other than the facial animation kind of looks like AI. It just morphs. Like, every facial expression just morphs, like the old AI we saw a couple of years back. Don't love that, but that's early days. I'm sure they'll come to grips with that.
I'm a little not confused. No, actually, no. I
Oh,
definitely
I'm confused. I'm
So
very confused.
you mentioned before something about combat is third person or something like
It's
that.
all third person. There is no first person combat, but exploration is first person, which I didn't mention. It's only when you pull your weapon out that it goes into over the shoulder.
But the first game was first person, correct?
100%. It was exclusively first person.
What the fuck? But there is there's two there's third person and first person modes though, right? Like I remember them
There's
saying
also
that.
There's also top down RTS base building and stuff as well that the game only just kind of introduced and didn't actually let me interact with, like full on fucking base building and shit from the top down. Also, first person base building. It just this
What
thing
the
has the most feature creep of any game I've seen in the last few years.
And this also
Good
has
luck to 'em.
a Kickstarter that has blown away its
Sitting on 400,000 Australian, I think, at the moment. It's also got
yeah.
online co-op, which I think kind of is a natural fit for what they're going with, but I don't know how they're going to implement it.
Well, I think I think I read it's 200% above target at the
Yes, it
moment.
is. Yeah, they set I mean, in my opinion, they set a pretty low target for a game of this caliber at 200,000 Australian. Like, that's
Sure.
pennies.
I
Yeah.
wonder if that was if that's just nothing. Not nothing, but like it's
Considering there's so much game there before they've even gone to Kickstarter market, like, yeah, they've
yeah,
clearly
like
done a lot of work on this game. I mean, the download alone was 250 gigs.
which must be like
That's
not
wild.
optimized, right?
What? Yeah.
I mean, to load the game up takes a solid 5 minutes because every time it's got to do that, like pre-rendering shader cache, and it just goes on and on and on. And
Mm.
it's not a game that looks like it's that big. Like, it looks like a game that's 10 years old. It looks visually worse than the first game. I'm going to put that
Okay.
down to its early, alpha build or whatever's. 250 is pretty big though.
That's a chonky game.
It's the
Now,
weirdest game, man.
admittedly, I've been doing some social posts for a review during a discussion, but like, I still feel like I don't understand if you like this or don't like this.
I don't know where I stand on it, man, because its
Okay.
first impression is so rudimentary and so because I had been playing Chernobylite 1 in the lead up to this, and to be clear,
Mm.
I didn't enjoy the first half of Chernobylite 1. That game took a lot of time to grow on me. I really didn't like it. So to come from a very complicated relationship to the first one to being like completely shocked out of my mind as to what they're doing with the second, it's like whiplash for me right now. So
Mm.
my article's going to be in a state of confusion, but a lot of admiration, I think, or maybe I'm just being optimistic. I'm hopeful that they can pull off what they got here because I love the ideas and definitely what they've pulled together in the demos of vertical slice is very compelling.
Yeah. Okay. Um, have they given a timeline for sort of what they want this to look like? Or
To be fair, I haven't looked any further than the fact that they want to come to market with an early access release on March 5th, which
right.
I'm so very curious to see even what build they're going to put out because I can't imagine it'll be the demo because
Yeah.
that does run a pretty firm 2.5 hours.
Fascinating.
It is.
I asked you in the Slack earlier this week if any of this was worth checking out, and you just laughed at me.
Because I didn't know how to reply. Look, I don't know how to. So, for context, our well-played contributor Ed Darling gave Chernobylite 1 an 8.5 out of 10. And to have read most of his review, I haven't read all of it, but to have read most of it, it's like me and him were playing completely different games. But in
Mm.
saying that, as I said, after about 8 hours, after I got through the menial base building grind, which is all just Kickstarter feature creep that you can just kind of push out in the first 4 hours and you never interact with it again. After I got that shitty fucking survival base build and stuff out of the way, I had a great time. I'm up to like the second or third last mission. It's been fine. Again, because Stalker 2's in a weird state where it's just, to me, unfinished. I'd very much push people towards this as a game that works, is completely understands its ambition. Just a nicer representation of what Stalker could have been at the moment. I'm sure Stalker
Right.
2 will be great down the line, but it's rough now.
Fair enough. We're not scoring this, are we? Because it's early access. Is that
Just a little demo.
all right? Oh, just the demo. Sweet.
Just a demo.
Amazing. Just
Yeah.
a demo.
That's
Just a
our
demo, lads.
impressions, and you can understand why I kind of rambled there because I don't know how to put this game into words. It's such a weird.
lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for trying. Appreciate your efforts as
Pleasure.
always. Kieron, I think you want to do a bit of a rapid round, maybe touch on some other stuff that you've been covering at the moment.
Sure, why not? I
Oh,
did
yeah,
I
brother.
feel like I did touch a little bit on Citizen Sleeper last time, Citizen Sleeper
Mhm.
2. But I have kind of gone through.
Yes.
I'm happy with how much I've played of that now. A review will be coming. Still very, very good. I really like the way that it builds on the like sort of core gameplay loop introduced in the first one. In the ways that remain familiar to people who played it, but also like plays with it enough that it feels like a very different experience thematically. And the first game did very well at sort of bringing forward its themes through how it played and how you interacted with it. So like, yeah, it's just really cool the way that effectively changes so much because they're changing the mechanics and because they're introducing new mechanics. So yeah, really sharply written, really like, yeah, there are moments in that game where I was ready to break because of my own failures and also because of like what was happening in the story at the time. So yeah, very very cool.
Okay. What score did you
Play
land
the
on?
first game if you haven't.
Yeah.
I think we're calling it a 9 out of 10. The only real issue I have, which is interesting because it was an issue in the first game as well, and it's going to be specific to a certain set of players, but the console controls are weird.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the like the interface is kind of like a lot of little nodes everywhere that you need to like click on and cycle through. On a mouse, I imagine it's fine.
Mm,
But with a controller, it's not reliable enough that you know where you're sort of moving your cursor around, and sometimes things don't trigger the way you think, and it's a small thing, but over time it kind of is annoying. And it's just
yeah.
yeah, it's weird that that was an issue before and hasn't really changed now.
Yeah, right.
But
That's cool.
yeah, highly recommend.
Yeah, this is a series that not only yourself, I've had so many people tell me that would just be up my alley, and I
You would love it
still
because
haven't
it's
touched
got the
it.
TTRPG vibe. Like it's
Yeah, I do
yeah,
love a visual novel, and I know this is adjacent-ish.
yeah, absolutely.
Mm, no, positive.
Um, but yeah, speaking of things adjacent to visual novels,
Smooth.
After Love EP is the other game that
Oh,
I've reviewed recently,
nice.
which is a slice of life little narrative, choose your own dialogue adventure kind of game, set in Jakarta, and it follows Rama, who's like an up and coming musician, but we sort of meet him a year after a tragic event takes the sort of life of his girlfriend, so he's kind of a year deep into processing the grief of that. But his band has an upcoming very important gig. So the game basically takes place over a month in the lead up to this gig. And you've got to sort of guide Rama around his little town in Jakarta and sort of work on his relationships and his friendships and himself, and sort of get to that gig and sort of hope that you make it there and it works and everyone's happy at the end. So it's yeah, it's very sort of branching narrative, so you can decide what relationships or friendships or ideas you want to pursue. One of the threads that you can sort of follow is just sees him get therapy, which I thought was really cool.
Nice.
So you can sort of opt to spend your time on that. Um, and the other kind of twist on it is that it's also got some rhythm game segments. I think this is like the third indie narrative visual novel style game in the last like 2 years that's also been a rhythm game. Um,
What did the other?
but
Could you name
there's We
another?
Are OFK
Oh,
and
sure.
Goodbye Volcano High as well.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's just like an ongoing thing, and I love them, so that's good.
Cool.
The rhythm game stuff's kind of basic. The music's really cool. It's like Midwest emo type vibes. Zach,
Fuck Mary Kill. After Love EP, We Are OFK, and Goodbye Volcano High. I don't know how you're
An
gonna answer that
interruption.
question, but
two, two of these are very emotionally charged games. I don't know if I want to fuck, marry, or kill them. But
I don't
Goodbye
know.
Volcano High is my favorite of the three,
Yeah, just rank them.
and this is
I
probably a
just want to throw
second.
that out there.
Yeah, yeah. um, but yeah, the
Zach with
rhythm
the
game
real
stuff's kind
questions.
of the rhythm game stuff's kind of simple. Probably the low point of the game, which is kind of disappointing because it's like a big thing for it. And the way that sort of all of the different story threads come together doesn't quite work towards the end. I think everyone's experience is going to be different because you can dictate what you do on every given day across the calendar. But by the time I was like a week out from the ending, I'd stopped the game stopped giving me things to do because I'd kind of seen out the paths that I'd chosen. And I couldn't initiate new ones, and I was kind of just like wasting time until the ending came about, which was a kind of a weird experience. But the good thing is that all the stories within it are really, really good, really well written. A lot of it comes, you can tell a lot of it comes from lived experience. There's a lot of really like good like queer stories in there, which is a big thing because it's set in Jakarta, and obviously that's a very like, you know, tumultuous sort of relationship there. So it's cool to see that represented in a game as like raw as it is here. So yeah, I think like really special in a lot of ways. Sort of suffers under its own narrative ambitions in some areas where the threads don't quite come together. But like, it's a small game. It's by a small team. Like that, a lot of that's forgivable.
At least it has those ambitions, right? Like, I'd rather
That's it.
someone take a
That's
swing and not quite connect than just stand at the bat,
absolutely.
you know? Stand at the
Yeah.
bat, not a sports guy. Yeah.
Stand at the back.
Is that it? Is that your power hour or minute?
That's my power minute.
Is that it?
Few minutes. I
Excellent.
I gave that a 7.5. I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a respectable score. I miss giving sevens. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One day
So
you'll
does-
climb back up past the
So does
5
PR.
or the 6.
Back out of the mire.
Back out indeed. Let's climb into some Maya though. State of Play happened. This is the PlayStation bi-monthly stream. I don't know how often they do these things anymore. Third-party focused. Kieron has a wonderful write-up over on well-played.com.au, sort of rounding up all of the trailer announcements. I do just want to quickly go around the room. What was everybody's favorite? Nathan?
No,
Tell
don't
us.
start with me. I've got to open up the article.
Zach, tell us.
Oh, it's got to
I
be
would say-
Saros, boys. Come on.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
kind of is.
Come
but you didn't-
on.
but you didn't like. You didn't see anything. Like, sure.
You don't need to. You
Um,
saw you saw into his eyes. You saw the little beams coming at him. You're
Little
like, fuck,
things.
this is going to be a follow-up to Return.
Who did we think that was when we were in the chat? I know we know who it was, but who
I
did
know
I think
you
it was?
thought it was someone. You
Who
thought
did I think it
was
was?
this where you were like Killzone?
No.
Oh,
I was just being.
I thought it was Expedition 33, but I thought that about
No,
multiple games throughout
the
this.
game, the
trailer
actor.
set.
The
that did
actor.
happen to me, James. Yeah.
Because I said,
Hmm.
is that someone, the actor? Anyway, to answer your question, James, I probably would go Onimusha.
That's a good
but
choice.
I'm intrigued by the combat. It looks weightier than before.
It does,
So
yeah.
I want to know
The-
how it plays before I get a real sharp sword, if you know what I mean.
I definitely felt like we were looking at a pretty early pass at it. It did seem a little slow, but the floor panel kicking sent me. I was thrilled.
Right, that's how they do it at Capcom.
Mm.
I'm not even keen for this Onimusha 2 remaster because I got around the last one.
You would have played the original, surely?
I didn't. I played the Gene Reno original.
Right. Okay. Right. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Important.
Two's great.
So I've
two's
never
very
played
good.
2. Yeah, keen.
So yeah, that would be my answer off the top of my head.
Nathan, did you find one?
Yeah, Saros.
Oh, right, of course. Sorry. Gotta be.
Yeah.
I
Easy.
Yeah, easy. Kieran.
My boy
Saros.
Sonic
Oh,
with Sonic Racing Cross Worlds.
Yeah, I'm happy for
I
you.
feel like I said this in the Game Awards discussion as well, and you're like,
you
why?
did. Mhm.
I'm happy for you up until Mario comes along later this year and fucking drives over
Look.
him. You
Look, we'll see. We'll see.
blue shells that
Um,
motherfucker.
Did
no,
someone
like
predict
the
Sonic Racing?
no.
Is there a prediction? For
Only
Sonic?
Kieran
Okay,
would
It
know.
was
I
already
think he did.
announced.
Right.
It
Okay.
was announced. Yeah.
We got like the
Yeah.
teaser. Yeah.
Yeah,
TGS.
but this was confirmation that it's effectively a sequel to Sonic and All Stars Racing Transformed, which is a favorite of mine. So I'm very excited. That's
Critically
it.
important information. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't mean to mock Sonic fans. Many of them are lovely people.
I don't mean to mock, but it's so easy.
I'm going to cheat because I wrote about one of them in one of my favorite headlines I've ever gotten to put on WellPlayed. But the Liza P DLC looks fantastic. They've given him a
Go
jacket
on.
that I can't describe here because I don't want to make extra work for myself. But I did put it in a headline, so Brave New World and all that. But I think for me, initially I bounced off of the trailer during the actual event itself because the voice acting struck me as a little hokey. But then I've watched the trailer back a couple of times now, and Tides of Annihilation seems like it's going to
Oh
be
yeah.
extremely James coded. Beautiful woman, desolate London fantasy landscape. She has that line which is like, "The mistake they made was leaving me alive." Like, yeah, bitch, let's fucking go. Like, it's ticking a lot of boxes. Looks very very cool, very very pretty art direction.
Yeah.
Hmm. I enjoyed Mind's Eye. I'm keen to see what that's all about.
Mm.
So yeah.
Is that the one
Uh,
that looks like Cyberpunk but isn't Cyberpunk?
Yeah.
Possibly.
Okay, it's like
It's
they're
the
like hacking and driving.
yeah, that
Oh
one.
yeah, from the GTA creator, right?
Yeah.
It's like Watch
Oh,
Dogs
that tracks.
in the future. The
It
one
looks
game.
like an open world game, but I feel like it's not, which is
I'm with you,
interesting.
Kieran. I
Oh,
felt the
weird.
exact same thing.
Sorry,
We might
Zach.
just get some like
No,
little
no, no.
open zones.
No, I was just gonna say, what's it called? Metal Eden, which is the game that was revealed here. Ash actually has a preview and a video preview up on the website and YouTube if you want to check that out. Oh, sorry, not a video preview. I shouldn't say that. He plays through the first mission or something like that, or the first bit of the game. If you want to go
Nice.
see what that's
Yeah.
all about.
Go to the YouTube channel to see whether or not we uploaded it.
Fun game of roulette you can play on WellPlayed. Anything else that stood out from anyone before we move on?
Hell is us, surely, guys. Like, there's
Oh,
something cooking
sure.
there, right?
Absolutely. We have Death Stranding at home.
Yes, thank you. Good,
Yeah.
because that's all I took away from it.
Look, I think it's high time that like we see more people trying to do Kojima. I'm okay with this as a swing for a studio to make. I think that thing looks really cool and just a little bit silly, which is always the right balance for me. So,
We should just make
Zach.
Strand games a thing.
Games. So
Oh,
if we
please.
have Souls-like, that's
Yeah.
the genre of games that tried to, they're inspired by
Yeah.
Souls-like. What's a Kojima genre? Strand-like?
It's Strand type,
At the
Strand
moment,
type?
it's a strand type.
Okay.
Yeah.
which I fucking hate.
No, I think it's beautiful. Strands connect us. But should
shut
we
up.
have connected? Oh, cannot wait for Death Stranding 2. It's going to be a whole thing. Yeah, like a decent enough little showing. I think it's pretty obvious that whatever they're cooking internally with their first party stuff, they are keeping very close to the chest outside of Ghosts of Yotai. And I mean, we still haven't had a Wolverine official announcement. So we know that's somewhere in a back room.
We had the announcement, didn't we? We had the one that.
Did we?
There was the tease.
Yeah.
Oh, have they
One that-
teased it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not know this. Yeah. Well, anyway, the point is, more first party games, please. If we're really only 2 years out from the end of this console life cycle,
2 years. Fuck me.
yeah, I do not care for that concept at all.
All right.
that
Before you
hurts.
move on, James, question: how do we feel about Days Gone getting a remaster?
How
Think
do
you're
you
the
think
only
I
one
feel
with an
about
opinion?
Days Gone getting a remaster?
I think you're excited to play as Deacon St. John, mate, in full
That's it.
whatever P it is.
I saw a screenshot, and I don't know if this was edited or not. You might be able to help me out here. It looked like their wedding to the girl that plays his wife, whatever, and she's like, "As long as you ride me like you ride that motorcycle." Is that a real
sounds
line?
right. That
Yep,
sounds
yep.
right.
That is a quote from the game.
And like real early on, right? Like the dialogue is
If
a
you
choice.
had a backwards cap, James, you might be able to pull off Deacon St. John. And if
Deacon St.
you
John.
rode a motorcycle,
I don't think so. I don't think I look anything like Sam.
Worthington? No.
No, that's the
Groth?
Avatar guy, isn't it?
Sam Groth. No,
It
he's a
is.
tennis player.
Sam Witwer? Is that right? Star Wars guy.
Sure.
Whatever.
But yeah, remaster. What a
He's gone.
strange,
Yeah.
very, very strange announcement. I don't get it.
Agreed.
Sure.
Maybe they're hoping to reach one of the 75 million units that's been sold of the PS5.
Maybe.
As a transition, pretty smooth. So this report came out of, I'm going to say Eurogamer, puts it just behind PS4 sales at that point in its life cycle. So like this kind of narrative of like console gaming is dying is not really true. I think Xbox has obviously shit the bed a bit, but Nintendo's very healthy PlayStation seems relatively healthy, and I think as long as you aren't looking for infinite growth, all of this is great. I think it's fine, but they are looking for infinite growth. So that's cool, I guess. There was also a stat in here about an all-time user high for the PlayStation Network, I believe, which I mean isn't all that surprising. We're in a very digital age now.
We know how that worked out as well.
What? Oh yeah, yeah. That was fun. Yeah, I don't know. There's not really like anything major to discuss here, unless anybody has any thoughts on Sony's continued financial success.
Good job.
Great.
Good
Fun.
job.
You've done well.
Fun to order 2 already. God.
I'd like it. You're hearing people
Mm.
talk about it more and more.
I
You
know.
know, I think the time is right for an order.
It's like a football was a sport thing, right? Like there's always this thing where a player who doesn't play seems to get better and better each week. It's kind of like the order, like the
Right.
older it kind of
That's
goes.
right, James. You know this.
I do know this.
Sports and balls and bats and that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
The longer they stand to bat,
the better they are.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Perfect.
The more likely the order 2 comes out. That's the get that on a t-shirt.
That's it.
What
That's it.
happens first, mate? Do you get the order 2, or does it get greenlit for an Amazon Prime live action series
It's got to be Prime Live.
and then
for sure.
cancelled subsequently 6 months later before production even begins?
Mm,
You were so close.
I know.
Kieran, did you watch the Yakuza series? Actually, Nathan, did you watch it?
No. And I don't intend to. Kieran, got anything?
I haven't watched it.
Okay.
Yeah, because the thing is they haven't, from the trailer, not leaned into the charm of those characters. They're just playing them gritty and grim, which is definitely a side to Yakuza, but it's only one side. If that's all they're doing, I'm not interested. I need the camp.
If you want a really good Yakuza television series, watch Way of the House Husband.
Okay.
What a cool name.
Oh, I
Yeah.
know what this is.
It's about an ex-Yakuza who, it's literally in the name, becomes a house husband.
Yeah, it's just his little slice of
sounds
life
great.
comedy.
That's got all the charm of the Like a Dragon games.
Okay. Cool. Well, speaking of X's, Phil Spencer has done an interview with Xbox Era in which they asked him about the concept of like PlayStation and Nintendo logos appearing during sort of like Xbox trailers and showcase pieces and whatnot. And he has said that like, yeah, moving forward, we want those things to be in there because we do want to be spreading the message that the Xbox experience can be experienced anywhere. And so if we are publishing on a PlayStation, we will put a PlayStation logo in there, and the same with Nintendo. He sort of talked about it with words like, transparency and sharing what we have to offer. Continuing that trend of Xbox becoming a third-party publisher, it seems like.
That's it. They tried.
That is it.
Great.
They tried to hold off, but they just money talks, baby.
Well, you got to start making money at some point, right? You can't spend that much and not bring in something eventually.
I'm curious, like, what they think the Xbox experience is that they're sharing with everyone.
Playing their games on another
'Cause
platform.
so far, it's kind of just like mid games.
Yeah.
Like there are some bangers in there, but like,
Mm.
I'm interested to like what they're actually selling to PlayStation players and Nintendo players, other than FOMO.
Yeah.
What do we think of Phil's tenure?
It's got to be wrapping up.
Hopefully this year.
He's got to be looking down the barrel.
Well, like
Someone
when you
get that
think about
giant
it,
hook and just like,
Yeah, just off screen. Yeah.
sure he's saved them from the who's that guy Don Mattress, or his name is Don Matrix.
Mattress.
Don Mattress.
Don Mattress.
Fucking whatever it is, Don.
Everyone really slept on him.
Get out.
But now, like, this is a guy who's taken Xbox to the level where people aren't going to be playing on Xbox. They're just going to be playing Xbox game, published games now. Like, the hardware's gone. I just don't. Is that a win?
I mean, I wouldn't classify it as such. I think
that's what I mean. Like, surely, he's everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people seem to love him Phil's one of the gamers, but you know he's fucked it, like really,
Yeah.
in a way.
I agree. I just think it's funny that like we've spent years now kind of making fun of Xbox for their business practices and kind of chastising them for it. And it does seem to have just trickled down into making this, like Kieran said, this development environment where they're just producing mid games. Like it is happening enough across most of those studios with it some sort of frequency that it kind of makes you wonder, what have you done, Phil? Like, was this worth it? Was this kind of like massive conglomerate effort worth it?
Yeah, and and then you look at I always what's the big studio, the quadruple A, the underground, whatever they're called, the collective, the Crystal Dynamics.
Yeah,
No, fucking what are they
not
called?
Crystal Dynamics.
Fuck, what are they
Something
called?
collective, I think.
Anyway, you know, you got
Yeah.
that was 5 years ago. What have we seen? We've seen nothing.
Are you talking about the
Fuck.
coalition?
Is it coalition? Yeah, I said the underground. I knew I was close. Not really, but just don't
Some
get
sort
it,
of gathering in the earth.
yes, like this big buzzed up studio, and they've got nothing to show for it other than a game that they've had to bring on another developer to help develop.
What are they making?
Crystal Dynamics are making it with them. I can tell you that much. Perfect Dark. There you go.
Oh, okay. Oh, the game that doesn't exist. Yeah, right.
Mm.
Mm.
Anyway, shout outs.
Shout outs indeed. There's the news for you. Unless anyone else has any news they particularly are fanging to bring up.
I don't have a news piece as such, but I do want to give a shout out to the WellPlayed episode of Talk Through, which has got Tales of Iron 2, Whiskers of Winter, that went up on the website. Sorry, on the YouTube. That did go up on the YouTube. I can confirm that this week, so you can check that out. But a little tidbit we got from that episode that I have kind of cut into its own little news piece is that a cool little part of the chat, we were kind of talking about the future of the series, or you know what this studio is going to do now this game's out, and they were kind of talking about the pitching process and how it kind of works. And one of the co-founders there basically revealed that they've got this idea, this pitch or this concept that is essentially Wallace and Gromit meets Watchmen, and that is very, very intriguing. So I hope we see that. So there you
go. Okay. Wonderful. 2000s film of the week. 2 zeros. I've got it, so it's all good. Nobody has to worry. Yeah, we're going to be fine. I'm going to have to edit this description because it will give away the exact title straight away, but we're going to be fine. After a car wreck renders a woman amnesiac, she and a Hollywood hopeful search for clues and answers across LA in a twisting venture beyond dreams and reality.
Actress?
Yeah, I will give you Laura Harring.
Don't know who that is.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
I couldn't give you the lead because I feel like it would give it away too quickly, but let's go Naomi Watts.
That's not doing nothing for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
2001.
Yeah, it's definitely not doing anything for me.
Lads.
Naomi Watts 2001.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna call myself out on this one. I don't know.
Yeah,
Car crash.
I can't even. Yeah. Spitball.
Los Angeles.
Yeah.
A twisting venture beyond dreams and reality. Nope. Mulholland Drive. David.
Oh, that is. So I watched Mulholland Drive only a couple of years ago, and that is. I mean, that's such a fucking weird film. So I guess that's one way you could describe it.
It is. That's one way you could describe it. I know. I agree.
I have not.
Not
seen
how I
Mulholland
would, but
Drive.
Yeah, I'm not.
I see. Surprised. You should watch it.
Maybe we will.
True.
Yeah. Off topics. Off topics. Let's start with Zach. You've been pretty quiet this week, so
I do actually have it. It's a slight news piece, but it does quite linger into off topics a little bit. Do we watch the Twisted Metal 2 season 2 trailer? Yeah. I mean, it's only like 40 seconds long or something. 45 seconds.
Half the trailer was just the last episode of season 1, but yeah, I did.
Any thoughts on that one? Keen for that?
I hope they I hope they're actually going to pull the trigger on doing the fucking death race this time, rather than just leading up
Mm,
to it. Like, let's go, let's make
Mm.
it happen. I'll watch a season of that.
let's fucking go. Coming this winter, so that should be good times. More Mackie is always a good time. Isn't that what James always says?
That's it. Big Mackie guy over here.
Big Mackie
Macking
guy.
up on it.
Me, I watched nothing actually. No, actually, I made Anna watch The Phantom. Which didn't go as
Which time?
poorly as expected.
First time.
First time. I didn't realize she'd never seen it.
Didn't realize you hadn't shown her your freak before.
She's been humoring you for 20 years.
Yeah.
Well, she kind of doesn't let me do certain things.
Do you
And
blame her?
commandeering the Blu-ray player to put on The Phantom is one of those things.
Mm.
But yeah.
The
I mean,
disc wallet stays closed.
I had a great time. Other than that, yeah, I haven't actually watched anything.
Okay.
I'm boring this week. Sorry,
Sometimes you need a quiet one. There's nothing wrong
do.
with that.
you do.
Yeah. Kieran, you watched anything?
I have not. Sorry to
Read
say.
anything?
Perfect.
No.
You listen to music?
I've
Did you hear a song?
yeah.
Kieran goes
Listen to
home and stares at the ceiling until he falls asleep. And then the next day begins. That's
That's too accurate.
Why are you laughing, James?
get out of my head.
I went to it. Nathan, I feel like Nathan, you would at least have heard of Joey Valence and Bray.
And if Adam was here, he'd be frothing.
Is that the guy
Yeah.
from?
So I
NSYNC?
went.
Me and Adam both wanted to, but you know,
Yeah.
life.
I went to that gig, so that was fun.
I reckon Zach could probably fuck with a song or two of JBB. Basically, they're just bringing the soundtrack of the old Tony Hawks back to life.
Okay,
Mm.
that's not the guy from NSYNC then. Okay,
No, it's not
No,
the guy from
no.
NSYNC.
Kind of looks like it.
That's Joey Fat One. What's his name?
that's what I thought you said.
Joey Fat
What's
One?
his What's his name?
I think that's
Is that
It's
it?
not. That's how you spell it.
Look it
That's
up.
how you. That's how you would break it down. I think it's for Tone or something. I don't know.
yeah, Joey Fatone.
Oh, I see. It's Italian. There you go. Yeah.
Who? What's the guy's actual name?
Valence.
Oh, Valence. Right. Okay. No, I did definitely misheard that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's it for me.
Excellent.
Just working gaming.
Yeah,
Mm.
fair enough. Nathan?
Yeah, look, I've just been craving something a little light, so my media diet for the last fortnight has just exclusively been Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is not really a
Yes.
show I've watched much of before. Like, I've tried many times just to watch it from the start. I'll get 3 seasons in and go, this show's too repulsive.
Yeah, it is
I
a
can't do it.
squirmy little show.
And then I got up to mate's like, you just gotta push yourself through till the blacks are introduced. So I stuck through, and the blacks got introduced. And I was like, okay, we're back in.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
it's been a lot
It
of
is
fun.
absolutely the turning point for that show. When it becomes its modern sort of form of itself.
It's night and day when Cheryl divorces him. The
Yeah.
show just turns on such a dime, and he becomes the
Absolutely.
most detestable outright asshole. But at the same
Yep.
time, there's all these actors you love. They're just trying to improv around it, and it's just
Mhm.
it's a car wreck. I can't help but watch.
No, it's
Love it.
incredible. I'm literally mid rewatch right now, so I love this for you. This is
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
I'm on season 11, so I'm almost up to date. And it's been a lot.
Okay. Fun times.
Certainly has.
Wait, season 11 is the one with the when they
Vince
cast the
Vaughn.
actress for the
Oh
TV
yeah,
show?
when they so
Yeah.
it's the actress from she's in Abbott Elementary, the little Maria something or other.
Yeah,
They're trying
Maria
to cast
something
her
or
in
other, yeah.
Young Larry.
Yeah.
She's-
Incredible running gag. Yeah.
Yes, couldn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in the midst of it.
Yeah. I'm continuing to watch too many movies, but the one I will shout out is All We Imagine as Light. It is an Indian film about sort of three women of a different generation living in a busy city and trying to deal with the modern experience. It's about 2 hours, very slice of life. Possibly the best movie I've seen of the 2024 lineup. I
What?
didn't think anything would dethrone Dune Part 2. I find this more moving and more profound than Dune. Gorgeously shot, incredibly well acted, very prescient story, very intimate. just loved it. Haven't seen anywhere near enough people talking about it, so I want to do my part to
Hell yeah.
get out there. Yeah, I think it's getting a. It might still be in cinemas in Australia. I think I'd had a pretty limited run, but yeah, however you can see it, try to see it.
I know there's a few in Melbourne, but I mean, they're just the stragglers now because its Australian
Mm.
distribution started on the 26th of December,
Oh, fascinating. That is,
according to
yeah, okay,
Wiki. Yeah.
right, okay. Um, yeah, banger, incredible, loved it. Movies, dumb movies, they are the best. Anything else before we wrap up?
Yeah.
Nope. Fantastic. Excellent. Tight 74. As always, thank you so much for listening. You can find everything we've talked about on the website, well-played.com.au. We are also on YouTube, wellplayed_au, Twitter, wellplayed_au, and Blue Sky at wellplayed if you want to follow along with our social posts at the moment. Yeah, thanks. Stay safe, be kind, and we'll see you folks next week.
Keep gaming. Yeah.
Aloha.
Peak gaming.